There are moments when reality seems to peer at you through the cracks of everyday life. A repeating number, a word heard at the exact right moment, an unexpected encounter that changes everything. They're fragments of the world that leap out at you as if they had a life of their own. Coincidences or coded messages? What if chance is merely wearing disguises to reach you? There's a silent unease in every synchronicity. It's as if something much greater than you is pulling the strings behind the curtain. But with an almost poetic delicacy, they don't shout, they whisper. Whisper your name, as if they know something you haven't yet discovered about yourself. Something that was asleep, waiting to be awakened through the cracks in logic. The rational mind rushes to explain, reframe, dismiss. It's just a coincidence, it says. But then why do some coincidences carry the weight of a calling? As if the universe, in rare moments, decides to interrupt the automatic flow of things and places there. A sign. Small, precise, full of intention. But intention for what? To remind you that you're being watched? If every synchronicity were a mirror, what would it be trying to show? Perhaps not something about the world, but about what pulses within you. A reflection of what you feel, desire, fear, without even knowing it. As if the universe were a living organism that responds to your silence. And in the right moments, it replies with signs. Signs that can't be explained, only felt. In ancient spirituality, these phenomena were treated as everyday oracles. The ancients knew, the world speaks to those who know how to listen. The question is, how many of us still do? How many can still recognize when something seemingly mundane carries an echo from the invisible? Or are we so consumed by the noise of the world that we've forgotten how to recognize a whisper? Maybe chance was never blind. Maybe it sees everything. Maybe when you feel like a coincidence has something to say, it's because it truly does. And in that instant, time stops, logic bows. And the real question isn't why did this happen, but rather, why now? Imagine for a moment that nothing that happens is random. That every event, no matter how absurd or disconnected it seems, is precisely placed within a map you don't yet know how to read. A map that exists nowhere and everywhere at once. You feel it when something makes too much sense to be just coincidence, even if you can't prove it. But who drew this map? Carl Jung said that synchronicities are manifestations of a greater principle that doesn't depend on causal logic, something that connects the internal world with the external world through a meaningful link, not cause and effect, as if reality were structured to reflect what you carry within, using symbols, encounters, and events. What does that say about the invisible structure that organizes everything? And what if what you call chaos is actually a very precise dance that only seems disorganized because you're still seeing it from the inside? Like looking at a massive painting up close, you only see blotches, scribbles with no clear meaning. But as you step back, the image reveals itself. Synchronicities are these tiny fragments of the painting that for a moment give you a glimpse of the whole. A single point on the map illuminated. Modern physics already suggests that the universe might operate as a holographic field, where each part contains the whole. This means the pattern is everywhere, yet hidden. And what if that pattern isn't just physical, but also symbolic and emotional? As if every movement of reality were orchestrated to express the state of both collective and individual consciousness at the same time. A living code, but this code doesn't reveal itself to just anyone. It requires presence, a certain sensitivity to notice when reality is blinking at you. Sometimes, the sign is in something as simple as a random phrase someone says, but it echoes something you once thought in the deepest silence of your mind. In that moment, the map reveals itself, and you feel, more than understand, that it has meaning. And then comes the inevitable question. If there really is a map that organizes events with such symbolic precision, what's the final destination of this path? Are we heading towards something we chose before we were born? Or is the map being written as we awaken to it? In a lab, scientists observed that particles of light behave differently depending on who observes them. It's the famous double-slit experiment. Matter changes when it is seen. As if the simple act of perceiving something shapes what is being perceived. And what if this principle doesn't just apply to quantum physics, but also operates behind the scenes of our lives? What if observing with intention creates reality? Synchronicity would then be the stage where this phenomenon presents itself. Life acting as an interactive play, rewriting the script based on the viewer's attention. You think of someone, and they call. You talk about a symbol, and it appears on a billboard the next day. Is it just luck? Or the response of an intelligent field reacting to the consciousness inhabiting it? Reality, in that sense, isn't a fixed setting, but a dynamic mirror. A mirror that responds not just to your actions, but to what vibrates in your thoughts, your emotions, in the silence between one decision and the next. And the more you notice these symbolic reflections, the stronger they become, as if the theater of existence had been waiting for you to pay attention before revealing its backstage. Quantum physics challenges linear time, the separation between subject and object, and even the idea of locality. Everything is interconnected in ways the rational mind still can't comprehend. What does that say about coincidences that seem to know exactly who you are and what you need to see? As if the universe were not just matter, but language, a language that responds to your awareness. Ancient spirituality spoke of life as a lucid dream, where the dreamer and the scenery are one and the same. Modern science, ironically, seems to be arriving at the same place through a different path. And synchronicities would be the meeting point between those two worlds, a phenomenon where physics and soul touch, as if they were dancing to the same music in different dimensions. But if the world reacts to your presence, if it responds to your deepest thoughts with coded signs, then who's really in control? Are you living reality, or creating it without realizing? Sometimes, something inside you starts to vibrate in the face of a coincidence. It's a feeling you can't explain, but it moves through you, as if the situation carried the scent of meaning. It's not the event itself, it's what it awakens. And that awakening comes from an ancient place, a place that speaks in symbols, images, repetitions. It's the realm of archetypes, those invisible structures that shape both what you feel and what happens around you. Jung called archetypes the living forces of the unconscious. They're eternal patterns that span cultures, eras, and people. They live in the collective unconscious, but also act in your personal life. And the strangest part, they seem to want to express themselves, to be seen, and to do so, they use the stage of reality. When you experience a striking synchronicity, it could be an archetype revealing itself, not to impress, but to communicate. Imagine that inside you lives a symbolic entity, a universal energy that needs form to exist. And it moves silently until it finds an external situation that vibrates at the same frequency. When that happens, the symbol takes shape. The coincidence occurs, the sign appears, but what if you don't hear it? What if you ignore the message? In that case, synchronicity would be the unconscious trying to break through the rational barrier, to bring into light something you need to see, understand, or transform. It's not just a warning, it's a creative impulse, an archetypal force wanting to reveal itself through your personal story. And the more you resist, the more intense it becomes, as if the archetype refuses to be silenced. That's why certain themes repeat in your life like echoes. Relationships, with the same patterns. Problems that return in cycles. Dreams that keep coming back. They're expressions of something greater trying to take shape. The archetype has no face, but it takes on the face of your experiences. It speaks when the world speaks to you, in symbolic, poetic, mysterious ways. But what if the symbolic world isn't just a psychological reflection, but a real field, where archetypes act as living intelligences with a will of their own. And what if, by ignoring a synchronicity, you're not just turning away from a message from your own mind, but from something that pulses beyond it? Have you ever stopped to think that reality might be speaking to you in a language you've forgotten how to decode? The subconscious is like a director who runs the stage without ever stepping into the scene. It organizes memories, beliefs, emotions, and transforms all of it into symbols. Now imagine that instead of just shaping thoughts, it's projecting events. But how do you read a world that speaks in code? The subconscious doesn't communicate in logical sentences. It speaks in images, sensations, patterns. It expresses itself through dreams, and in the same way through synchronicities. When you notice a meaningful coincidence, it's this deep and silent part of you that's speaking, as if it were saying, "Look, there's something of yours here, something you don't want to see but need to feel." Synchronicity becomes a symbolic mirror. Depth psychology has already shown that the subconscious drives up to 95% of our daily actions. But what if it also orchestrates encounters, choices, the paths you call chance? What if it can bend reality to provoke from the outside what you couldn't access from within? The world would become a living extension of your mind, and not the part you know, but the part you avoid. How many times have you thought of something out of nowhere and then immediately seen that same theme appear in the outside world? What if that's not magic, but resonance? The subconscious would be orchestrating small collisions between the invisible and the visible, as if using reality as a language tailor-made for you, one only you can decipher, but only if you have the courage to listen to what you don't want to hear. That changes everything, because synchronicity stops being something that happens to you and becomes something that happens for you, a code linking your psyche to the world. But to receive it, you need sensitivity, introspection, a gaze that goes beyond appearances. The sign is out there, but the key is within. And the right door only opens when the unconscious recognizes its own face in the mirror of chance. But if the subconscious can shape reality itself just to be heard, what else is it capable of? What would happen if you truly learned to dialogue with it, not just interpret it? Would the world around you change along with you? Or has the world always been a projection of an internal conversation that never stops? Do you believe time is a straight line? That the past is behind, the future ahead, and the present is just a comma between the two? That idea is comforting, but maybe it's just a cultural illusion, because there are moments that defy logic, like when you feel something has already happened before it actually does, or when a coincidence carries the strange taste of inevitability, as if it had already been written. Modern physics is beginning to admit what ancient traditions have always said. Time is not linear. It can bend, cross itself, repeat. What if synchronicities are scars left by that time that doesn't follow? A line, but pulses in spirals, fragments of a future that already exists in potential, or echoes of a past that still reverberates inside you, waiting to be acknowledged. Nothing happens by chance when time folds. Some researchers talk about information from the future that can be accessed before becoming events. It sounds absurd until you experience something you dreamed about perfectly, or predict a detail with no logical explanation. What if, in those moments, synchronicity is a crack in time, a window through which another point on the timeline sends signs, trying to connect with the now? In esoteric traditions, it's said that destiny sends signs before big turning points. Small chances that seem harmless, but later reveal themselves as markers. What if those markers are seeds launched from the future, as if time were testing you? Will you notice? Will you respond? Will you follow the intuition that this coincidence sparked? If time isn't a sequence, but a web of possibilities, then synchronicity might be a form of alignment with a specific point on that web, A moment when your consciousness tunes into a line of reality that was already there, waiting for you to choose, not through logic, but through perception, through presence, through recognition. And if that's true, the next synchronicity won't just be a sign. It will be a crossroads, a signal that time is bending to your choice, and that the future, in some mysterious way, is already trying to reach you before you arrive at it. Have you ever wondered why certain numbers keep appearing at the most unlikely moments? Why you see 1111 when you glance at the clock without thinking, or hear the same phrase from different people on the same day? Repetitions. Like these aren't just curious, they touch something intimate, something that makes you pause, even if you don't know why. As if the universe were pushing you to see, but see what? In nature, everything follows patterns. The spiral of a seashell, the cycle of the seasons, the rhythm of the heart. Life pulses in repetitions. But there's a difference between blind repetition and meaningful repetition. Repeating synchronicities aren't noise, they're codes. It's as if you were living inside a sacred algorithm, programmed to activate certain responses in your awareness whenever you lose touch with yourself. Science studies patterns, spirituality interprets them. And when both look at the same point, they discover that repetition has power. It reinforces neural pathways, structures perceived reality, and triggers deep emotions. What happens when repetition escapes the ego's control and starts appearing on its own? Who's behind those symbolic loops? And what if the universe, like a living intelligence, is trying to wake you up? Many traditions say that the divine doesn't speak in words, but in signs. And the clearest sign is repetition. Because it unsettles. It won't let you look away. It's the symbol knocking at the door until you finally open it. Maybe the repeating number has no power in itself, but was chosen as a hook for your attention. A password that only makes sense to you. A password your subconscious recognizes. But here's the most provocative idea. What if these repetitions aren't messages from the outside, but responses from within? A reflection of something vibrating in you so strongly that reality has no choice but to mirror it. Repetition would then be the echo of a part of you that wants to emerge, to be reborn, to speak. And it can only do that by creating patterns that insist until you finally hear them. But if there's a code behind the repetition, then can it be deciphered? Could each repetition be a step in a secret dance you've already danced before, in another life, in another time? Or is the universe rewriting reality in real time, shaping the details to lead you toward a truth that can only be understood when the pattern finally completes? Have you ever felt that something in you knows more than you do? As if behind the choices, the doubts, the paths that seem to appear out of nowhere, there's a greater, silent awareness observing everything? Many call this awareness the higher self, a part of you that sees from above, that isn't lost in the mind's confusion, and that every now and then chooses to step in. But that intervention doesn't come with words. It comes with signs. With events so precise they make your logic stop for a second. You meet the right person at the right moment. You escape something without understanding how. You discover something important down an improbable path. These synchronicities aren't just benevolent coincidences. They're nudges from your higher soul. Subtle pushes from the unseen saying, "Go this way." The higher self doesn't shout, it whispers. And each synchronicity could be a coded message, as if your deepest self had planted clues along the road so that the you of now wouldn't get too lost. Like a player who already knows the game and tries to guide the character through hidden signs in the scenery. But the question is, are you paying attention to the details? Many spiritual teachers say that life, at its core, is guided by a greater plan, a purpose your ordinary mind doesn't understand, but your heart senses. And what if the higher self is the keeper of that purpose? What if synchronicities are shortcuts to realign you with what you promised to be? Before forgetting who you were, That's why, sometimes, synchronicity appears when you're about to give up, or when you're too confused to make a decision. It's in those moments that the higher self steps in, not to solve things for you, but to remind you that you're not alone within yourself. There's a part of you that already knows the way, and it sends maps in the form of signs. But if the higher self really guides through synchronicity, then how much of your life is truly your own choice? Could free will be a dance between the ego that chooses and the soul that suggests? And what if every meaningful coincidence is a hidden conversation between who you think you are and who you truly are? Imagine that every thought you have, every emotion you feel, leaves an invisible trace in the field around you. Not a symbolic field, but a real one, pulsing, energetic, alive. Quantum physics already flirts with this idea. Everything is connected by a unified field where there is no separation between mind and matter. And what if this field not only connects, but responds? Intention is more than desire. It's a subtle force that shapes the invisible. When you set an intention with presence, the field feels it. It moves, bends, reorganizes, but not in the way the ego expects. Sometimes it responds with signs, synchronicities that seem to come from outside but are merely echoes of something you emitted without realizing it. You speak to the universe, and it responds with symbols. Many synchronicities are born from forgotten intentions. That question you asked in silence, the doubt you carried in your chest, the search you never even named. And then a book appears, a phrase, an encounter. The unified field acts as a mirror sensitive to your internal vibrations, and reality becomes the messenger of what you're vibrating most deeply, including what you try to hide. Neuroscience already shows that the brain doesn't distinguish between imagination and reality. So when you project an intention with emotion, the body believes it, and the field responds. As if your vibration were a universal language that needs no words. And what if synchronicities are the return of that language? The universe signaling that something was received, not as a reward, but as resonance. The big question is, what are you emitting when you're not paying attention? Because it's not just your conscious desires that shape reality. It's also your unspoken fears, your unhealed traumas, your silent beliefs. The unified field hears it all. It doesn't judge, it simply reflects. And maybe the most mysterious, synchronicities are those that reveal parts of you you've yet to face. But if this field responds to your deepest intentions, then how far does your power of creation go? Could reality, in essence, be the constant response to questions you don't even know you're asking? And what if the next coincidence is a direct message from the field saying, "I heard you"? There are moments when something happens and you feel like it shouldn't be there yet. A déjà vu with no explanation. A synchronicity so precise, it feels rehearsed. An encounter that carries the energy of something that already happened, even though it's all new. And what if, in those moments, what you're experiencing is the reflection of something from the future? A whisper that escaped ahead of time? Some theoretical physicists suggest that time may be reversible at certain quantum levels, that the future can influence the present just as much as the present shapes the future. It's a difficult idea to accept because it challenges everything we've been taught. But what if we've been feeling this for centuries without knowing how to explain it? And what if synchronicities are like noise, tiny temporal leaks where what's yet to come is already starting to announce itself? Imagine the future as a radio station. It's already broadcasting, but only those tuned to the right frequency can pick it up. When a coincidence happens and you feel that there's something there, maybe it's because you've tuned in. The information arrived before the event, and the universe, in its silent wisdom, is testing your perception. Will you ignore it? Or will you realize that time, in that moment, bent around you? Mystics and visionaries have always spoken of premonitions, intuitions, and prophetic dreams. They called it seeing beyond the veil. Modern science, with its limitations, is still searching for ways to understand these phenomena. But synchronicities seem to operate at this boundary, not as predictions of the future, but as reflections of a destiny that's already approaching and wants to be recognized. Often, what comes first is the sign, and only later the event. As if reality wants to prepare you, but symbolically, because if it spoke plainly, you'd doubt it. But a number that repeats, a song that plays 3 times, a phrase that fits perfectly, that makes you stop, that plants a good kind of doubt, an opening, a crack. But if the future is already trying to communicate, even in fragments, then what else has it already dropped along the way? Are you paying attention to signs you don't yet understand, but that one day will make perfect sense? And what if the synchronicity you experience today is the silent reminder of something you chose to live long before arriving here? And what if everything you experience is shaped by a mind beyond your mind? Not some external entity, but your own consciousness at a level you haven't fully accessed yet. The idea that reality can be programmed by mental states isn't just an esoteric belief. It's starting to echo even in the boldest corners of science. And what if each synchronicity is the response of a system that you, unconsciously, are feeding? Greg Braden, among other contemporary researchers, speaks of an informational field where emotion, thought, and intention directly interact with matter. It's not just what you think, it's how you feel what you think. That creates a vibration that enters the source code of reality. And synchronicities would be like system alerts, lines of code that leaked, glitches in the program, revealing that you are more the author than you realize. The analogy is provocative. Imagine that reality is an operating system, and your consciousness is the hidden programmer. Most people live as users, reacting to whatever appears on the screen. But the subtle signs, the coincidences that seem like personal messages, are like intentional bugs in the code. Conscious glitches, as if the program were inviting you to wake up, exit autopilot, and begin writing new instructions. But what happens when you start to realize the world responds? That it returns to you not only what you do, but what you believe, what you expect, what you fear. That's when synchronicity takes on an almost sacred weight. Because it's not just a reflection, it's a tool, a clue left by a part of you that already understands the game, and now wants you to understand too. The ego wants to believe everything is out of its control, that life is a collection of random events it simply reacts to. But what if, behind it all, there's a greater consciousness, yours, setting up experiences, bringing people closer, planting symbols? And what if reality is obeying you symbolically, without you even noticing? If consciousness is really doing the programming, then what have you been programming lately? What are your silent thoughts asking of the world, even without words? And what if the next synchronicity is the exact reflection of a line of code you wrote while distracted, or in complete silence? There are experiences that seem entirely yours, but carry a universal flavor. Have you ever felt that? As if a symbol that appears in your life touches something ancestral, something that doesn't just come from you, but from everyone. A number, an animal, a lost object that reappears, a phrase you hear that resonates deeply. And what if those signs aren't just speaking to you, but to the part of you that is collective? Carl Jung called this the collective unconscious, a symbolic ocean shared by all humanity, where primordial images, archetypes, and ideas live that you never learned but always knew. It's from this invisible sea that the signs emerge that appear on the surface of your life, as if the universe were drawing cards from a deck that belongs to all of us, but choosing the exact card that speaks to your story. These universal symbols manifest as synchronicities when you're in tune with something bigger than your ego, when your silent questions touch themes that are not only yours, but humanity's. That's why, in certain moments, everything seems to align around you as if there were a pre-written script. Because maybe there is. And it's written in this collective field where everything is connected, including you. The same symbol can appear to thousands of people in different forms, but with the same core meaning. That's because these signs aren't generated by chance, but by a living network that runs through everyone's mind. And when you begin to notice them, something in you also begins to awaken. The feeling that you're no longer alone inside your own mind. There is a larger mental field, and it speaks to you through the world. Religions, myths, dreams, they've all used these images to convey truths that can't be explained, only felt. Synchronicities work the same way. They don't inform, they transform. They don't tell you what to do, but reveal that something is happening. Something that includes you, but doesn't revolve around you. You are part of the question, and also part of the answer. But if the symbols of the collective unconscious choose specific moments to appear, who chooses the moment? And why does that symbol show up exactly when you're on the edge of a transformation? Could there be an invisible intelligence organizing not just the events in your life, but the symbolic content that comes with them? And what if the next coincidence isn't just a personal calling, but a call from the collective itself, asking to be heard through you? Have you ever felt that a coincidence wasn't something new, but something you somehow already knew in a way that can't be explained? As if, for a brief moment, a part of you had remembered something ancient, not from the past you lived, but a memory that came from somewhere else. Another layer of time, another layer of self. And what if synchronicities aren't discoveries, but recollections? It's as if, at certain moments, the world touches an invisible string inside you. A name that shows up repeatedly. A song that moves you for no apparent reason. A forgotten object that resurfaces and makes your chest vibrate. None of it feels new. It feels familiar. As if it had always been there, waiting for you to remember. And that act of remembering, that almost magical feeling of, this has something to do with me, might be the true purpose of synchronicity. Many spiritual traditions speak of the existence of a veil of forgetfulness that covers who we truly are. A necessary veil, they say, so that human life can happen. But this veil has flaws, cracks, and synchronicities seem to be exactly that, tiny tears that let through the light of something you once were, or still are, on a deeper level. They're not coincidences. They're glimpses of your essence. These recollections don't arrive in the form of explanations. They come through symbols, gestures, scenes that seem ordinary, but ignite something you can't ignore. As if behind matter, there were a field of spiritual memory, and when you touch it, even unknowingly, it responds with signs. Like an old friend recognizing you in a crowd. Many people report that after experiencing a powerful synchronicity, they feel different. Not just intrigued, but reconnected, as if a lost piece had returned to its place. This isn't just psychological, it's energetic. It's as if your vibrational field had been recalibrated by coming into contact with a forgotten fragment of who you truly are. And reality, for one brief moment, responded with total clarity. But if every synchronicity carries a call to remember, what exactly did you come here to recall? And what if it's not about remembering facts, but a vibration, a mission, an inner name that time and logic tried to erase? What if every sign is, in truth, a key, slowly unlocking the door to a memory you carry deep within your soul? Have you ever noticed that when you're at peace, the world seems lighter? And when you're anxious, even traffic feels more aggressive? That's not just in your head. There's a force that works silently, connecting what you feel to what you experience. Reality responds to your vibration, not to the image you try to project, but to what you emit when no one's looking. And what if each synchronicity is the subtle confirmation that the universe is mirroring you, According to ancient Hermetic teachings, as within, so without. That saying isn't just poetic, it's a law. The vibration you carry, whether conscious or not, acts like a silent magnet. It doesn't ask, it attracts. And synchronicities would be manifestations of that attraction. Not rewards, not punishments, but vibrational reflections. The world returning what you can't hide energetically. What does that mean in practice? That thinking positively isn't enough. That forcing a smile while you're conflicted inside won't shift anything. The universe doesn't respond to appearances. It reads your vibrational field, the one made of real emotions, stored memories, hidden truths, and it responds with mathematical precision. As if life were saying, look at what you're vibrating. Look at who you're being right now. Synchronicities, then, don't come to surprise. They come to reveal, to show that you're aligned with something and that something could be light or shadow. That's why certain coincidences give you chills, discomfort, shock. They point to a vibration you might not want to acknowledge. But the mirror doesn't lie. It only reflects. The choice to look or look away is yours. At times, you emit such a specific frequency that reality bends around you. You think of something, and it happens. That's not magic. It's vibrational coherence. You're so whole, so present, that the world responds in synchronicity, as if saying, yes, you're on the right path. You can't force this, but you can feel when it happens, and when it does, you know. But if reality is reflecting who you are at a vibrational level, then what image is it reflecting back? To you now? And what if every synchronicity is life's attempt to show you that reflection with more clarity? Are you willing to look at it honestly, even if what you see isn't what you expected? Sometimes life presents itself as a game of scattered pieces. Things happen, people come and go, opportunities arise and vanish, and everything seems disconnected. But then something changes. An invisible thread begins to reveal itself. And you realize that certain things had to happen the way they did, even if they didn't make sense. As if chance, that old disguise of destiny, was simply waiting for the right moment to take off its mask. There are encounters that shift your direction, decisions that appear out of nowhere, answers that come without you ever asking the question, out loud. Coincidence or hidden script? And what if destiny, to avoid scaring free will, hides behind random events, like a screenwriter crafting a powerful scene but making it seem improvised? Life, perhaps, is the perfect stage where the invisible acts disguised as accident. What seems random is often what carries the most intention. A forgotten book on a table, a delay that puts you in front of someone, a passing phrase that answers, something burning inside you, subtle movements, delicate alignments, as if reality were being woven by invisible hands, but hands that know every beat of your heart. And when something synchronizes, it's not just beautiful, it's necessary. Stoic. Philosophy once spoke of the concept of amor fati, the love of fate. Accepting what happens not as something imposed, but as something tailor-made. And what if synchronicities are precisely the moments when destiny stops being abstract and becomes tangible? A moment when you feel you're in the right place, at the right time, with the right people, even if you don't yet understand why. The mystery is that destiny never forces itself. It dances around your choices, waiting for an opening, a gesture, a glance. And when you align, it shows up. Not with fireworks or final answers, but with coincidences so precise they can't be ignored. You feel it wasn't just chance, but you also can't explain it. And maybe you don't need to. But if destiny truly disguises itself as coincidence, how many times has it already tried to speak to you, and you thought it was just luck, just misfortune, just coincidence? And what if, deep down, each of those synchronicities is a hidden signature, a silent mark that there is a greater plan, not one that wants to control you, but one that wants to be recognized through what you feel when the world looks back at you.